Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a function to scan your options data for any option spreads by passing in only one leg. Currently, we're able to retrieve verticals, straddles, and strangles, but you can modify the function to retrieve calendars or butterfly spreads. And what I'm going to be doing in the script is taking the top 10 calls and top 10 puts with the highest open interest and trying to see if I can match it up with another leg. And then we're going to go ahead and plot these to see the option payoff and kind of get a general idea of what these traders are doing. So you are going to need the functions I went over last week along with an option database. Mine comes from the CBOE that I collect each night. For this example, it's not necessary to have stats on puts and calls. So long as you have your options data for the whole day, you can just sort these by open interest. But this is what my stats table looks like. So on the put side, I just want to see what the total open interest is from highest to lowest. And the first 5 columns are the changes in open interest throughout each day. That will give us this total along with other stats. But as I mentioned, we're only going to need the options with the highest open interest for both calls and puts. So once you read that in, we're just going to collect the top 10 and also read in all of our options data so that I can scan for that other leg if it exists. Now the way we're going to do that is to build a function where we pass in one leg and a threshold, and the threshold is applied on the open interest. So say if our highest put option had 50,000 contracts, it's going to search for another leg that has 10% more or less open interest than the option we pass in. So it's going to retrieve all options in this data frame between 45,000 and 55,000 contracts on the open interest for the same underlying symbol. One leg has more open interest than another, so they won't be exactly the same. So what we're passing in for this option is one of our top 10. So it's going to pass in each of these rows, and it's going to extract the underlying symbol, the strike, the expiration, the option type, the current open interest, and the mid price. And then it's going to create the scan by subsetting our options data frame for the current symbol and all of those that have open interest above 0. We're going to extract the option name for the contract we pass in because we want to exclude it from our matches. And then we're going to divide the open interest for the option that we pass in with all other contracts. So we're going to create a ratio and we're going to rearrange from highest to lowest. And then we're going to use our ratio to find comparables. Now, if it was able to find similar options, it's going to go through this next block. Otherwise, it's just going to return the option that we pass in and display that the strategy is single. So as I mentioned, currently we're only able to extract certain types of spreads, including verticals. It's considered a vertical if the strikes are not the same, if the expirations are, along with the option type. And it's going to grab the current option that we pass in along with the comparable and create a data frame called strat. And what we want to do here is gather some information needed for our plots. That includes the underlying symbol, the option type, the option strike, the expiration, the option price, the current open interest, some Greeks, and the implied volatility. So we will have 2 rows, one for the current option we pass in, and the other will be for the comparable. We're going to add a couple of columns here, including the strategy type, which is vertical, the trade date for the option, and the underlying price. We also have straddles and strangles. So these two are very similar, and it's considered a straddle if the strikes are the same along with the same expiration, but the option type is not the same. So one will be a call, the other will be a put. The only thing that changes for the strangle are the mixed strikes that we have. And lastly, if nothing gets returned from the 3 strategies that we have, it'll just return the single option, similar to our other case. And then finally, just return the strat. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this function. Now we're going to do a scan by passing in 1 through the length of our calls and our puts, and we're using a 10% threshold. Now these 2 get returned as a list, so I'll show you the call strats. So it looks like it was able to find a couple of instances that have spreads. The ones with 1 row are just single, and for the put side, we only have 1 instance where we have a spread. So let's take a look at all of the spreads that we were able to find. And for this chunk, we're just row binding to create tables and see all of our instances from our lists. But to actually look at each instance of a spread, we need to index each of those instances. So we'll run these 2 blocks. So it looks like we were able to find a strangle for SPY, and it looks like we have slightly similar open interest. The option strikes are fairly wide, so it could just be that it's a coincidence, but we'll go ahead and plot it anyways. And for the other 2, we have the short Qs Fairly similar open interest. Looks like this strategy was a vertical, and these are the option strikes. And our first one looks like it was for Siri. We have a straddle in this instance since the strikes are the same, and the open interest is fairly similar. Now on the put side, we're going to go ahead and view that one instance. So it looks like it was for Siri as well, and this one got classified as vertical. Now for the next chunk, we're going to plot our first instance for the call, which was our straddle. And since we don't know if these guys are long or short, we're going to plot both. So here we created two plots. The vertical line is the current price on July 11th. So the chart on the left is the long straddle versus the short one. Now for July 12th, Siri did move up to 371. It looks like they are pretty much short. Now for the second instance, we have a vertical, and this is for the short Qs. So again, we're going to plot the long version and the short version. So the one on the left is the long spread versus the short one. The current price for the short Qs is 752. So let's see if they are positive or negative. It looks like they're up on their position if they shorted this spread. Now the third instance is a strangle, and this one was the one that we weren't sure since the strikes were fairly wide. So if this trader was long the spread, this would be their payoff. If they were short, they have a relatively wide range for the stock to move. And currently we're at 560, which is somewhere in here. So for this one, we're kind of unclear. And our last spread that we have is on the put side. So this one was a vertical, and it was for Siri. So currently on Siri, the price is 371. And I believe for this one, they had a fairly large position, so around 70,000 contracts. And with that, guys, this concludes the video. I hope this was useful information. I'll leave a link down in the description area to my Patreon where you can find the script. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.